Hi, I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy, and people say to me, you're an investigator, you must be an ex-police officer. Nothing could be further from the truth. I have no legal training, no criminal investigation training, and I own, operate and control the largest investigator training organisation in Australia. We have currently over 1,000 students, and we've been in operation for 21 years, and we have 19 qualifications from Certificate 3 through to Advanced Diploma. How do you become an investigator without any legal or any criminal training? You can study to be one, and that course is called Certificate 3 in Investigative Services, and it's available online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I have 21 people who designed it and prepared it from their experience as licensed private investigators. I don't need to be a police officer, many of them were, right? I am a teacher and a coordinator of the teaching and assessment of private investigators, government investigators, and corporate investigators. My background is as a retail person. When I left school, graduating in year 11, I was expected to go into my family business, which today is 124 years old. It's owned by my big brother. It's in its 4th generation of same family ownership. And my family back in those days expected everyone to work in that shop in regional Australia. My big brother became a bookkeeper, my big sister became a buyer in the ladies' wear department, and I became a visual merchandiser. I am a fully qualified window dresser. And I can come round to your house and I can say, oh, you can't have that over there. I hated it. I didn't like being in retail. I wanted to do something that had adventure, that had danger, that had excitement and was rewarding. That's what I wanted to do. And I was lucky enough to be able to achieve that. From my retail work, the local TAFE asked me to become and teach at the local TAFE college, business management. So they put me through a teaching program and gave me the course curriculum, and I taught that at the local TAFE college at the West Coast College of TAFE. And the people in my class were very rich miners and wives who worked in hospitality, so they were very wealthy people. And they were planning on running their own business once they retired from mining and hospitality. And I was their teacher. So that's where I first became a teacher in TAFE. I started there, and in the mine of this local town, there were 3 fatalities in 3 months. This was a big issue. This affected the whole community. And they came to me from the TAFE one day and they said, look, we're going to introduce something up at the mine called workplace health and safety. I said, oh, that's great. What's that? And they said, oh, it's important. It stops the fatalities and the injuries. And I said, oh, right. They said, we're going to make you the teacher. I said, oh. And we're going to send you to Melbourne for 6 weeks to learn all about it. Now, I was 21 years of age. They sent me to Melbourne, all expenses paid, for 6 weeks. It was the best time of my life. I can't remember really learning anything about workplace health and safety, but boy, did I have fun. So I came back and I became the workplace health and safety teacher for the young apprentices and for the management and operators of that mine. Later on, I moved to the big city and I was teaching workplace health and safety at the TAFE college. Probably one of the most outstanding things I ever did there was get a police officer come in one day, and that police officer came into our class. It was a Friday afternoon, and this class consisted of a bunch of people that worked in what was technically a theme park. They would have a Saturday off, and Friday they studied at TAFE, and they worked Sunday through to Wednesday. On this particular Friday, the police officer who I invited to come into this workplace health and safety class came in, and his final words to them were, if someone points a gun at you and says, give me the money, it's better to be a live coward than a dead hero. And they were his final words. And these people, this was getting near the end of their course, we only had about 3 months to go of a 2-year program. And they were having a little bit of a celebration party that night, and they had their party. They sort of had hangovers all day Saturday, and they went to work on the Sunday. On that Sunday, 35 people got shot dead in their workplace. It was another year before any of them returned to TAFE to finish their course. Nothing I said in their workplace health and safety class saved anybody's life. We didn't have a student there that was injured or killed. Nothing I said saved anybody's life. What the words of that police officer will always stay in my memory. Better to be a live coward than a dead hero. I spoke to none of the students about their experience, but I tell you what, workplace health and safety is a very serious thing. And I was teaching workplace health and safety. And one day in my class, there were 3 people who were private investigators. They introduced themselves as private investigators, and I just thought to myself, how creepy is that, following little old ladies around and filming? Well, within 3 months, they'd got me into it, and I got the excitement and the career I wanted. You know, it has been very rewarding to me. There is an unlimited amount of opportunity in investigations in Australia. It's not limited just to private investigation. So as a guide, organisations have internal investigation departments. If you could imagine something the size of BHP, where they have offshore oil rigs and they have mines in Africa and South America and Western Australia and in the Pacific Ocean, they have strong reasons to investigate workplace health and safety incidents or theft from their organisation or fraud against their organisation. So they have internal investigators who do that sort of thing. Government departments, they have investigators for the tax office, for fair trading, so we can go to the show and our children won't choke on toys bought from show bags. They conduct weights and measures inspections of butcher shops and supermarkets to make sure you're not being ripped off in those areas. And that's what, just a couple of examples of corporate investigations. Private investigators predominantly work in the area of workers' compensation investigation, CTP liability investigation, public liability investigation, and general workplace code of conduct investigations. An example of a code of conduct investigation is sexual harassment or inappropriate behaviour, inappropriate use of power, inappropriate use of resources. What's an example of inappropriate use of resources? Several years ago in Australia, there was a Premier of a state whose son borrowed his Premier's limousine one night and went out hooning around the city in it. So that's an example of inappropriate use of resources. What areas of skills are lacking in investigations in Australia? I'm not familiar with any area of skill that's lacking. The most lacking thing we have at the moment, we have an undersupply of investigators and an oversupply of work. We're coming off 2.5 years of pandemic, which is an unusual situation in anybody's lifetime. And there's been a large adjustment in that area that we've all been through. But as a result of it, there are people that have had accidents or they've caught in their work role, COVID, that sort of thing. That has to be investigated. Now, these things might have been caught 18 months ago, but investigations sort of start after they find out that the person's never going to recover and they can't work anymore. And that's a process that goes through the claims management process that takes a long time. So we have at the moment in Australia the unusual situation where we've got more investigations than we have investigators to do it. It's not so much lack of skill, lack of training, it's people moving in the industry and growing their careers in it. If you look at it logically, it costs $2,000 to do your course. It costs $600, maybe $800 to apply for a licence. And that licence may be for 3 years, or it might be only for 1 year if it's a $900 license. There's a lot of barriers to coming into investigations. What competencies are you expected to have as an investigator? As an investigator, probably the most important competency that you can have, apart from gathering evidence, is the ability to take a detailed statement from a witness. That ability to take that statement, include all the relevant information, and not include the emotion or the rumours or anything that can't be verified, is absolutely vital. What will make you or break you as a government investigator, corporate investigator, or private investigator is your ability to take a detailed, accurate statement from a witness. Now, we also conduct records of interview with people as well. So who do we give records of interview to? Police do that because they're interviewing a suspect. Well, in the workplace situation where it's a code of conduct, sexual harassment situation, we'll be conducting a record of interview with the claimant or the complainant, and we'll be conducting a record of interview with the respondent. What's the difference between a statement and a record of interview? The record of interview is more detailed. It's a single question, single answer interview. There is no room for misunderstanding. There's no room for error. And every question asked and every response given is written or recorded. Private investigators have many options when choosing an industry association. Industry associations are something that not everybody gets into. It's a networking opportunity. It's an industry information opportunity. And it's basically something where you have to go to a little bit of effort to be involved in. Not everybody will do that. There are many different industry associations in Australia in relation to investigations. Some of them are younger and more enthusiastic than the older ones. Those ones tended to have moved into an electronic meeting environment during COVID, when the others were left where they couldn't have their face-to-face meetings over that 2-year-plus period. So investigation industry associations are there to promote the industry, to support members, to promote excellence in the industry through training and professional development and continuous professional development. If you're looking for an industry association, you can Google them on who to join. Contact me. I am the president of the Association of Investigation, Risk and Loss Adjusting Professionals, AIRLAP, and we meet currently on the first Friday of each month online. We have a continuous professional development program, and we take on licensing authorities over emerging issues in relation to our occupation. There are global industry associations. There's the World Association of Detectives, and you are free to join any of these. Some of them are very expensive to join. How has technology changed the investigation occupation? When I first became an investigator, all statements were handwritten and signed by the witness on the spot. Today, they are typed out and printed out and signed on the spot by witnesses. If something has to be recorded as well, such as a situation of a record of interview, a laptop computer can do that, and you can also do that interviewing remotely. So someone in Brisbane can interview someone in Townsville over something they witnessed when they were on holidays at Surfers Paradise 6 months ago. So technology has been very helpful. When I started, it was a notebook and a pen. Today, it's an iPad and a battery charger and a portable printer. The romance is gone, but technology has only been positive for the investigation industry. Evidence collection is vital to the investigation industry because this involves what's going to lead to the ultimate outcome of the matter at hand. I'll give you an example. Someone in a workplace puts in a grievance that they have been sexually harassed by another person in the workplace. Now, there are two ways of looking at this. You've heard the saying, there are two sides to every story. Well, in this case, the person who's put in the grievance has said to the workplace, I have been harmed. I want redress, and the workplace will look after me. The workplace has a different view. The workplace says, okay, we've got this grievance here. This person has said this person has done something wrong and is a bad person. Okay, if this person is a bad person, where is the evidence? You can apply that to a workers' compensation injury. The person's been injured, they want redress. The workplace or the insurer will look at it and go, well, where's the evidence? If there's 15 witnesses and CCTV showing that, there's your evidence once the investigator's gone and spoken to those people. If it's happened when everybody else was away from the factory at lunch and the person who's claiming they are injured at lunchtime was inside by themselves, and when the workers returned to the workplace, that person's sitting on the floor saying, I just fell over and hurt my back, and there's no witnesses, that's a whole different story. So insurers, for example, have a vested interest in paying claims that are genuine, and they want to check if those claims are genuine in certain circumstances. An investigator may be required as an expert witness in court. I have a background as a volunteer firefighter. I'm no expert on fires. I could not tell you what the cause and origin of a fire is. I have no training in that. But there are specific investigators in Australia who are ex-fire people, ladies and gentlemen, they're licensed investigators, and they are expert witnesses on cause and origin of fires. When you go to court and you watch a police officer give evidence in relation to a car accident, and they went to the scene of the accident and they measured the skid marks and they looked at the width of the road, the surface of the road, and they dragged their machine along those skid marks to work out the coefficient and the speed of the vehicles at the time, and they've gone to check the lights, the traffic lights that were in place at the time and they're functioning and all that sort of thing. When those police officers go to court and give evidence, it's really great to watch because it takes 45 minutes for them to give their qualifications and credentials before they're even asked their first question under evidence in chief. And those people who are experts at motor vehicle crash recreation, they retire from the police and they do that as expert witnesses later on as a private investigator. Now, expert witnesses could be on anything. It could be on foliage, on soil, on blood spatters, all these sorts of things. I've been asked to be an expert witness in relation to the training of security guards in Australia, and I politely declined. Why did I decline that? Because I've given evidence 35 times in court and I've been cross-examined 35 times. I didn't enjoy the experience. That's just me. There are people out there that will confidently go to court in relation to their qualifications, to their training, and to their work experience. Industry in Australia. Well, it's an unlimited potential future. Wherever there is a need for people to find out what happened in a situation that led to an incident, accident, occurrence that's going to be expensive and could cost a lot of money, there is going to be a need for investigators. It's always evolving. 10 years ago, there was no need for anyone to investigate cryptocurrency fraud. Equally, 10 years ago, there was no need for anyone to investigate an accident caused by an automatically driven electronic vehicle. These things evolve. We have new technologies, we have new things coming on board, and we have a requirement for these things to be investigated. It always changes. When I first started as a licensed private investigator, the biggest injury to people was carpal tunnel. And that was a result of what they used to call repetitive strain. Today, they call it occupational overuse. And it just about doesn't exist anymore because with workplace health and safety training, they rotate the roles of people that might be vulnerable to that in a factory where they're processing chicken or sewing or something like that. And they keep rotating them around so that one repetitive action isn't done all the time. Today, the biggest investigation that investigators conduct in relation to workers' compensation is psychological and psychiatric injury, previously known as stress. So stress claims are the flavour of the month in investigations today. What's coming up? The future of investigations for workplace health and safety is going to be sedentary lifestyle. You're looking at a classic example of that now. I'm 63 years of age, I'm overweight and under-exercised, and I sit at a computer all day and I tap away on my computer, and one day I could possibly say, I'm sick because of this, I don't work hard enough, and I've had a heart attack and I'm going to sue my employer. Well, I can't sue my employer because I'm self-employed, but sedentary lifestyle, sitting on a computer all day, not exercising at work, is going to be the future of investigations in workers' compensation. In fraud, with cryptocurrencies, with international commerce, international shipping, international trade, and local small-scale stuff, there's going to be an endless amount of fraud. Police investigate those frauds. If you run a corporation and someone commits fraud against your corporation, and you contact the police and say, Jane Smith just ripped us off for $6,000, the police are going to laugh at you because you didn't have the security risk management in place to prevent that fraud from happening. The police have got terrorism, domestic violence, armed robberies, frauds to deal with of a scale not of $6,000 but of $20 million. So it's up to the corporation to do its own internal investigation by an investigator who will then hand up that investigation to the police in the form of a hand-up brief that they can go and run with afterwards. They're just some of the insights. The advice I would give to anyone who's considering a career to become a private investigator is yes. If you have an inquiring mind and an ability to make people relax and tell you things, you will be very successful as a licensed private investigator. You'll conduct workers' compensation investigations, corporate fraud investigations, motor vehicle accident investigations, general insurance investigations, a whole range of investigations. You'll get some that are run-of-the-mill. You'll get some that are startlingly outrageous. I had once was a $74 million art fraud. Very interesting investigation to go and do. No 2 days are the same, and your work is always interesting. If you get into the field of surveillance, it's doubly interesting. So my advice, and I say this to all my investigators as they're emerging, is look for the way in. If ever you've watched the series on TV called The Staircase, in The Staircase, you'll see the investigators in that constantly saying, look for the way in, not look for the way out. If you look for the way in and you find things out and people relax and tell you things, and you can get facts and get that accurately in a statement, you'll be a very successful licensed private investigator. Lastly, and most importantly, never ever end any interaction with another person as an investigator without confirming these words. Is there anything you can add? Now, what can I add? If you're interested in becoming a private investigator, you're going to have fun. I know lawyers that are private investigators. I know barristers that are private investigators. I know nurses, doctors, teachers who are private investigators. No one's born a private investigator. They might be born to be one, but you have to study it, learn it, research it, become competent in it, and then get your foot in the door through persistence. Investigation's 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. I know it's an old cliche, but it's really important. When you're out there gathering evidence and you're interviewing people and you're inspecting scenes and you see CCTV cameras, don't always believe what you see on that CCTV when you get a copy of the video. That's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security